Okay, so question 5 is the spreadsheet question. You'll find that you usually have a spreadsheet question in a level 2 functional skills assessment. And here it is. So you're given a spreadsheet which will be on the left to download. We'll click on that and do save as and save it in my always dancing folder. Should have looked what it was about first, because this isn't the most meaningful of file names, but it will do for the time being. I should have called it dance classes probably. Okay, use a formula to calculate percentage reservation. So it's unusual. I'll do read only and then say version myself. Okay, now obviously we're asked to calculate the percentage reservation, but before I would do anything else, I always try and get the spreadsheets formatted nicely, because there's always marks for making sure it's formatted well and making sure there's no errors in it. What do I mean when I say formatted? I mean, colors, fonts, how numbers are displayed, whether they have decimals, whether they're percentages, that kind of thing. Now obviously you want to make column headings stand out, so the easiest way is just to do bold, which is Control and B, or you click on the B. But there's a nice trick for doing that much better. And what you do is you highlight all the cells of that actually are the table, so in this case from A1 to H30, and there's this built-in tool called Format as Table, which I really recommend. I just think it makes life a lot easier. So you pick your color scheme, and I'm not very imaginative, so I'm all about the blue, Shrewsbury Town FC and all that. So that's what I do to sort out my formatting of my table, making it nice. Also, you'll see that it gives you these drop-down menus, which are brilliant because you can sort really easily, or you can filter it so you only have people beginning with A, or that's in text filters, or with numbers you can filter it so that it's 10 or above or something. Great, really useful. So I really recommend doing format as table. Just be aware sometimes people do format as table wrongly. I'll show you how that works. If you did format as table and for whatever reason this was ticked incorrectly, and sometimes it automatically is ticked incorrectly, you get this column 1, column 2, column 3 thing, which is obviously rubbish. I'll show you one specific reason why. If you sort that, then you no longer know what the column means. So if I do undo, which I use Control and Z, or you can use this little arrow here, if you see column 1, column 2 and all that, you've made a mistake. Undo and do it properly. And always check that this is correct, whether it's ticked or unticked. It has headers because there's this row of the column headings, so that's what they mean. That's what you want it to look like. Okay, you'll probably find other things that are rubbish about this table. Obviously, you can't read half of it, so that's not very good. If you want to make a column wider, you move the pointer to in between these letters. You see it changes to that line with the arrows pointing either way, and you can make the column as wide or as narrow as you want. A little trick, if you double click, it does an automatic column width, which is quite good, I think. Even better trick, this is the special place to click where you highlight the whole table. Double click as if you're automatically resizing column A, and it does them all. So that's a really nice quick way of doing the column widths. I just think of that as housekeeping. I don't wait until they ask me to do it. I know there are marks for formatting a table correctly, probably about 3 in this instance, maybe more. And so I just do it. Always put in effort to make everything look professional, because there will always be marks for that, even if it's not obvious that they're there. Okay, so I'm doing percentage reservation. I'm just going to nip back to the tasks using Alt and Tab. Use a formula to calculate percentage reservation. They don't rely on you knowing maths so well, because they tell you how to calculate this. So it's the number of reserved spaces divided by maximum places. So if you're doing a calculation, you have to press equals, otherwise you just type some stuff and it appears in the box. Equals tells the computer to work it out. So that. Now plus and minus are easy. Times is the star and divide is the slash. If you look on the number pad on the right of your keyboard, if you're using a big full-size keyboard, then add, subtract, star for times and slash for divide are all on that number pad, so that helps you remember them. You can type G2 divided by F2. I often just click on them instead. I find it a bit quicker and easier. But either way, you end up with that. Hit enter and you get an answer. If you hadn't done format as table, which sometimes you can't do because it doesn't really work if you've got 2 rows worth of column headings, then you only get the first done and you use this little black notch to copy it down to the rest of the column. But if you do format as table, it just treats every cell the same and it does it all automatically after you've done the first one. Obviously these aren't percentages, you have to tell it to be percentages. So you select them all, and and if you look in this tab, there's a number section. See here it says number, so that's where you can do stuff with numbers, and that's percent. Equally, there's a drop down here with loads of options. Right, so that's that bit sorted. Let's pop back. So tick that off in my mind. Use a formula to display the word promote if percentage reservation is 50 or less. Okay, so if you're displaying one thing or another, depending on a condition, you're talking about the if function here, which comes up in nearly all level 2 assessments. So let's go for it. It doesn't tell you what to call the column. I'm going to call it that. Okay, and we know it's the if function. If you want to do a function, any kind of function, average, sum to do a total, or min for the lowest, max for the highest, you can click on here to do insert function. And it'll press equals, but if you can, there's other ways in. You can type equals and then choose it out of this drop down, or you can go to insert formula. I just click on that fx function button. If, and it says here, checks whether a condition is met, i.e. whether it's the 50% thing, and returns one value of true, which would be promote, and another value of false, which I'm probably going to say don't promote. So okay, I want that function. You've got 3 boxes to fill in, and if you click in a box, it tells you what it wants here. This tells you what the whole function does. So if I click in the second box, this is the value that if the logical test is true, this is the value if the logical test is false. I tend to fill these in first because they're easy. So if my test is met, then I'm going to say promote. If my test is not met, I might say bad grammar, don't promote. If I click in the other box, it puts the speech marks in for me. If you don't want to say don't promote, if you say nothing, then what it does is it says false in capital letters, which is not usually what you want. If you want it to say nothing at all, do empty speech marks, and then it just shows blank. Right, so those bits are easy, this bit's the harder bit, and that's where you're saying basically true or false to Excel. And if you're doing true or false, you use symbols like this: greater than, less than or equal to, and greater than or equal to, and equals if you want it to be a specific thing. So you use those, and you tell it where to look, and you tell it what to look for. If you're in doubt with these functions, I really recommend the help, because it gives you some examples of how they're used. It will also give you quite a kind of wordy description of how they work. Some people prefer to read the descriptions. I tend to look at the examples. I'll tell you how they work. You've already dealt with the equals and the if and the brackets by clicking on insert, well, clicking on the insert function button. So all you really need to know at this stage are the contents. So I'll tell you how it maps to what you're looking at. This would be the kind of thing that goes in the first box up to the comma, and then after that comma, this is the kind of thing that might go in the second box, and then after the next comma, this is the kind of thing that might go in the third box. So you won't have to type the commas, they just tell you where one box ends and the next one begins. So if in doubt, always look at the help, because you can't Google the answer in the test, unfortunately. So with this one, I'm just going to pop back to my question. Display the word promote if the percentage reservation is 50% or less. So let's move this down a bit. So you normally say where are you looking, and then you use a symbol and then what you're looking for. So I'm looking here, H2, and I want it to be basically less than 50%. Now you need to put in the percent, otherwise that's basically 50 is 5,000%, 1 is 100%. So either put in the percent or do 0.5. Oops. A lot of people forget that, and that's why the formula doesn't work in these instances. So you do need to put in a percent or change it to the decimal. I'm going to use 50% because it's easier for people to understand when they look at it. So if I OK this, then it does a load of promotes. Now you're probably thinking, hold on Dave, what about this one that's 50%? We want that to be promote. And that's a good point. They'll often say something like 50% or less, and just test whether you're kind of on the ball. And if you're not, like I wasn't then, you haven't done promote there, so you lose a mark. Now there are a couple of ways around this. There's the bodgy way, which is where you say less than 50.01% or something like that. Or there's the proper way, which is you say less than or equal to. Specifically, those two symbols in that order. If you had to do greater than or equal to, again it's the greater than symbol then equals. So it does matter which order you do. If you've done the wrong order, it wouldn't know what you're on about. And you see this invalid when you click in the next box, so that tells you to try something different. Never press OK if you've got an invalid somewhere, because you know it's not going to work anyway. So before you press OK, just check that these are what you expect. Is it less than 50, less than or equal to 50? No, but we're looking at H7 because I clicked there for some reason, which is stupid. You always want to change the first one. Good thing I checked that. So, is it less than or equal to 100%? Sorry, is this one less than or equal to 50%? No, it's not. So you expect it to say false, which it does. And then it says, okay, then the formula result is going to be nothing, which is what we want because we don't want to promote that one. Okay, check the what we call the boundary value, the one that's on the edge, and that says what we want it to say. Glance down the rest. Perfect. Happy days. That's your if function. Don't forget with if functions, fx to bring it up, choose if. Second and third boxes are easy. First box is a bit harder. Use the help function if you need to. Okay, let's move on to the next bit. Insert a row above the data with the heading class reservation list. Merge and center the heading. Okay then. To insert a row, just click where you want the row, right click, insert. There we go. You want headings to look important, so you can make them big or bold or whatever. I like to use cell styles because it's quick and that's what it's designed for. So if I want to merge all these cells, I select them all and then I do merge and center. Happy days. I might just do that a bit. And now Just like you can do left, middle and right, you can do top, middle and bottom. So I'm going to go top like that. No, I'm not. Middle, yeah. Insert today's date in the footer. So I'm looking at insert first because that seems most logical. I don't do many headers and footers, so I had to look for that. So if I scroll down to the footer, oh, that's not how I do it, is it? Sorry. Let's go back to that. Sorry, header and footer. Oh yeah, here you click to footer and today's date. Can't see date. So I'll click go to footer and current date. Okay, so that should do that. And I'm finished, so I'll go back to home, just choose a normal cell. As soon as you do header and footer, it changes the view. If you want to change it back, it's down here in these options. And it starts to think about printing, so it puts those lines on everything. Filter and save the spreadsheet to show only the promote ones. Filters are easy if you've done format as table. If you haven't, then you can highlight your headings and click on sort and filter and do filter, and then your drop downs will appear. Landscape, make sure it can be printed on one page. Okay. So, oops, sorry, dodgy trackpad on this. Page layout, not surprisingly, is where you find things like landscape. Doesn't really fit on a page. Various ways to get around this. You can go to file and print, and there's a fit to page option. But actually, you've got some columns with loads of blank space in. So what I'm going to do is just make that high enough for 2 lines of text. I don't like the way they're on the bottom, so if I go to home, I might center them. And if I click on wrap text, that means you can put it on more than one line. So if I squish that a bit, that happens. Squish that. Actually, I've got a bit more room to play with. So it all fits quite easily. Let's check that there's nothing cut off. No, there isn't. Pop back. Make sure all the data is clear, easy to read and formatted correctly. I've been doing formatting quite a lot as I go, but this is always a good stage to just do a quick spell check. With names, I just assume that they're correct, because often there are different ways of spelling the same name. Because that's not the spelling that I'm most familiar with from Alicia, but I suspect that some people may spell it like that. I don't do a lot of crumping, but I think it might be with a K. I'm sure Missy Elliott's sung about that at some stage. So I'm guessing that we're probably okay for spelling. So now if I do print, I do Control and P, but you can also do File and Print, and page 1 of 1, so you can see it's all going to fit. If it doesn't fit and you've done wrap text and you've fiddled around, I find you can change the wide margins to narrow. That's one good thing to do. And the nuclear option, scaling, you can do fit sheet on one page. But sometimes that can squish up the text a bit, so it's often better to do what I've done with wrap text first. ITO, I think that's pretty much it. Upload your completed spreadsheet. So what you do is you save it, of course. I often do save as just to check Yeah, so it's Excel 97 to 2003. That's actually the older version, and it saves it as .xls. This is the newer version which saves it as .xlsx. It doesn't really matter what you save it as, but just be aware that you'll need to choose the correct option when you upload. This pops up if you've saved it as the old version, but it's fine. Sometimes if you save something in Word and you do some fancy stuff with images, you're better off saving with the new version, to be honest. Right, so I'll close that because it's all done, and it won't let you upload unless you close them. So this would be the stage at which I click on that and upload it, and it will bring up the same box as you see when you click open in Word. So you find the file and you choose the correct type and you click OK. Right, that's task 5 complete.